Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of all them religions, all them superstitions, man. Because because the story is universal and it has nothing to do with magic. And tonight we're lucky we got both the gentlemen, Mac, who is now in Eden right now, and of course our favorite herd animal, BigZebra.com.
Thank you. I guess by definition, I'd also be your favorite odd-toed ungulate.
Oh yes.
Yeah. There is an interesting thing I wanted to talk about because it's Easter, and this is the time when Christ rose from the grave. And I happen to know a funny story. My friend, who's now passed on, told me this story. He is Muslim, but he is Muslim by way of India. So he knows a lot of Muslims and a lot of Hindus. And he would say in his deliberately affected Indian accent about how Indians would intentionally, for humor, confuse the Jesus story and talk about how so is this the Christian holiday where Jesus wakes up and if he sees his shadow, there's 6 more weeks of winter? And
that might be not quite the holiday.
Yeah, it may not be the holiday you think it is. So I wish I could do an Indian accent to really pull that one off because it's a lot funnier with the right accent. But it made me think of how many religions and myths deal with the world of the dead and going there and coming back. And I was wondering if you guys would like to talk about that.
Sounds fine.
The theme of resurrection in general, like throughout mythology?
Sure, and feel free, let's acknowledge that we might be Wikipediaing some stuff.
Sure.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we should establish to what end are we pursuing this confluence of resurrections, because we're sure to find them, right? I mean, I already know a few off the top of my head, you know.
Sure.
Osiris or
yeah, he comes to mind. There's the Persephone in Roman myths. I was interested in it because it occurs so much, and as Shakespeare said, death is the undiscovered country, from which no one who goes there returns, although we do have that happening in myth. And of course in religion, which is really a myth that hasn't been proven mythical yet.
Right.
So sorry if that offends some of the listeners out there.
I hope it makes them think.
Yeah, well, anyway, the fascination with death and what happens when we die comes up, and I'm just suggesting that it's a natural topic for religions to ponder. And of course, eventually you get a theory of the afterlife and a $10 word, eschatology, which is basically the study of things that are, I want to say immortal, but that's not quite right. Let's use the Google machine to give us a good definition of eschatology.
I thought it was the study of the end times. The eschaton was the apocalypse.
Okay, the part of theology concerned with death, judgment, and the final destiny of the soul and of humankind. Well, my impression was it was well, I obviously had that definition a bit wrong.
I just know the old slogan, don't let them eminentize the exciton. You know, you want to do it yourself. You don't want to let them do it.
Well, here you go. There's a branch of theology concerned with final events in history of the world or of humankind. I think when I was reading, when I first encountered the world, it was basically about those things that are eternal, which I suppose the final resting place of the soul would be regarded. But,
Definitely.
so having said that, is there anything to be learned from humanity's obsession with the afterlife and from returning from it or existing beyond death?
I think there's plenty. Mac, did you look something up that you wanted to use as a comment, or because you looked like you looked something up, or am I just wrong?
No, I mean I am Googling madly as usual, but
okay.
I'm not. Yeah, no, I don't have anything to present right now. Just trying to.
Okay, let me see if I can carry the conversation for a little while until you have something that triggers you, and not necessarily triggered in a bad way, but triggered actually. Okay, some interesting observations about our obsession with death. We're even more obsessed with life. Like we seem to get really into that and really involved in that, and I think that especially when I was young, I know I can say of myself that the proposition of growing old or even older as I am now seemed preposterous. It seemed almost impossible. And I really felt that I was, the expression goes 10 foot tall and bulletproof, like that nothing could hurt me. Like that's just not going to happen. I found out later that's not true, but I sure felt that way when I was, say, 11 through 14, something like that. So we are obviously concerned with death, but I think we're even more obsessed with life, and that makes sense to me from the point of view I have, because we're like several species on this planet already are. We're intended that our flesh last forever. That is, it's restricted to not last forever with a death sentence in chapter 6 of the Bible and in other stories. Where although our flesh should last forever, it does not.
All flesh is grass.
I don't understand.
Oh, that's from the Bible. All flesh is grass, that it is here for a season and then
yes,
withers.
The flesh you have right now is grass. You have to take that in context. All flesh that you guys have, man has, because that's where the book's located, is not going to last forever. It's going to be parched by the sun. It's going to die. But the death sentence is way before that, all the way back into Genesis. So,
right.
Yeah.
And
now,
we also
say that we would not have flesh in a restored vessel, because it takes some twisting of definitions to get rid of flesh in heaven.
Right. So that quote, from Shakespeare that you shared, Zebra, seems apt here about the finality of death, because what Richard's claiming about how there's even more focus on life highlights, I think, in that context, it highlights the importance of the idea of a resurrection and why that would be such a monumental event. If death is so final, like culturally and sort of universally agreed upon to be a final, destination, like a thing that you can never reverse, like a thing that once it happens, it's forever, and then it gets reversed, and then life takes its place. This is a big deal, Instead of death comes life. We value life, and if we spend more time and value it even more than death. I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's more mystery to death, so than life. I think, just because we experience it, we understand life more than death. And so there's an appeal, and I think sort of a draw. I think maybe Marty said something about that, how it's the mystery itself that draws us to it and makes us think about it and contemplate it.
Sure. And we don't want to lose our life.
That's right. We really value our lives. Yeah.
You said Marty?
It's not that we, Marty Cameo, or my favorite friend of mine who's actually a witch.
Oh, okay.
You don't know who Marty Cameo is?
I think I've seen the name, but I don't think.
Oh, is Marty here?
Yeah, she's in the chat.
Oh,
yeah,
Marty.
She said something like that about that's one of the aspects of death that's interesting. Yeah.
I thought you were quoting her from some earlier time.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that we had people in the chat, and my fault. Peace and respect, Assembly of God, Marty Cameo, looks like Krishna, and Plastic Jesus. Is there anyone else? I need to scroll up and make sure.
There's Maynard.
Brian Stevens at least dropped by if he's not here presently. And Maynard's in there? Oh, yeah, there's Maynard. Peace and respect, Maynard. Okay, so here's some funny things about religious people and the way they look at the text. And I would compare this in it seems a little bit that they're overzealous or overly excited about certain points, and then they ignore others. Where it says a vessel is flesh for the real you, you are not your body. I mean, I think almost anyone agree. I am not my body. I'm something else other than my body. My body is where me is. That's fine. But I'm not a body. That's not what it'd be like I am a lion. Well, no, the lion is more than just, an animal. Zebra is more than just an animal. Peace and respect, SFB. So
do you agree with that, Steve? Do you agree that you're more than your body, or you aren't your body, that you are in your body?
I might say that I am more than the sum of my parts, but that there is something more.
Would you say that you're more your body or more your mind? Are you your brain, or are you the ideas in your brain?
I would hope that I'm more the ideas, and that but as the notion of a spirit, I would assume, is in fact more of a brain state, that we have a state of consciousness.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very Christian of you, but I don't recommend Christianity, especially for atheists.
No, not without a lot of alcohol.
Right. Maybe then it's okay if you're drunk enough. That's a very Christian idea you just put forth. And it's actually, it would be inconsistent in the Bible. Like, you can cherry pick certain parts of it and make that statement from the Bible, but you can also make the exact opposite statement from the Bible. And that's inconsistent, And when a person doesn't have a coherent theory of a thing, then it can be anything, so they can just flip back and forth and change their position constantly. They don't need to be coherent. They don't need to be consistent. They don't need to be anything, which is part of the escapism that you hear in Christians during debates, is because they have to switch their positions and quote different parts, and maybe they don't realize they're doing it. Maybe it's like a brain function of compartmentalization. Maybe they're doing that. Maybe they're not. But the biblical definition of a spirit is a set of ideas that a person assigns value to.
Interesting.
So, for instance, BigZebra.com has the spirit of the herd, because when he's in the herd, he's one of the strongest runners, and much of the herd will just automatically follow him. They understand that he's in charge. So he is the spirit of the herd. He's the one that's the mind that's making the decisions, and the rest of the herd is following him. You see, that's the spirit of the herd.
Okay.
So that's that's a biblical use of the word spirit.
Right.
It's not a magical, fuzzy, floaty thing that you can only see from about midriff upward, and the rest of it is just nondescript because people don't think about their legs. That's not what's being described in the text. That would be an apparition.
You raise an interesting point, because the Bible seems to be obsessed with the resurrection of the dead, especially in the New Testament, that physically the flesh is reassembled somehow.
Yeah, it says you will receive a perfect vessel. You will be vivified, perfected, quickened. Those words. Yeah, it says it several times.
So, so it's not that the soul is being implanted in a new body; it's that the body is reassembled.
Okay, let me just skip to the end of that conversation to make it easy for you.
Sure.
It's part of the responsibility of the angels in their observations of individual human beings to record the life of that person, so that when they are restored, they can be the same person. Now, whether that's a matrix, plug it in and juice them up, or if they're just like told who they are, I don't know how
like I'm being copied.
If it's mentally projected, but stored by angels. There's not only familiar demons, there's familiar angels. It's just people call them guardian angels, but it's their job to study us.
So if I am resurrected, in fact, it is not me. It is a copy that has been recorded by an angel.
Should you have died, the injected or recalled memories of who and what you are, which would it would include things like on YouTube and on your comedy channel, bigzebra.com, you represented yourself as a zebra. Like, you would know that in heaven. That's part of who you are.
Okay.
So not exactly the same flesh in the like Newtonian classical laws of logic, not like that kind of the same, but genetically perfectly the same. So the same combination, your stripes would be exactly where they are right now.
I'd like that.
Well, we have a self-image which is addressed in the Matrix as well. And
yes.
we picture ourselves a certain way, and if we didn't adhere to that, it would really mess with us.
Sorry, I sort of lost track. I was just sort of enjoying listening to you.
We were talking about flesh in heaven, and how that you would be essentially a copy or a clone of yourself if you should die, which brings me into the next topic I want to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So what if we don't die?
That's a great question.
Around.
Let's talk about it.
Yes. So we're around when end times
Checks
occur.
in the mail. That was a good job. You get a bonus for that one. Okay. So, and when I say checks in the mail, I mean that in the record producer in the 60s kind of way.
Yes. I'm familiar with that one.
Okay, so here's what I think is true about what Christians say of the Bible, or what religious people say of their religion. That is, if they're not philosophical religious people, out of consideration of Krishna, he believes he's talking about philosophy and mental health. That's what he's talking about. Okay, he's not talking about the kinds of things I'm talking about exactly. Okay, peace and respect, House of Comments, and JG, thanks for showing up. Okay, and Pixie, thanks for showing up. Okay, so imagine yourself in college and Doogie Howser shows up. You're 25, You're getting your you're working on your master's, and this 13-year-old kid walks in.
That know-it-all.
They're on the roster. Like, they're supposed to be there. Like, they've earned that by the time they were 13. What it took you 26 years to earn, they did that by the time they were 13. So here's the weird thing. What happens? Everybody notices the anomalous kid. The professor pays more attention to the anomalous kid. And because of that, the rest of the situation, say it's a 50-to-1 ratio, 49 get ignored because of this weirdo. And that's what Christians have done. That's what Christians have done. They've ignored most of the Bible where it says that those who have died and are restored is the weird situation. And what you need to be worried about if you live into end times is living. You need to be, I am the God of the living. I'm not the God of the dead. And other such lines several times. Okay. So they tend to get distracted because of our obsession with life and death. And the weirdness of the idea, which it's not that weird anymore if I just say it's cloning you, take enough samples from enough of your existing family and extended family and cousins and third cousins and 20th cousins, peace and respect, crypta, and I could recreate you if I know what the code is. Okay? All I need is a viable ovum that I can pull the information out of and put your information in and put it back into a healthy gestating female. That's it. The rest happens naturally. But by the way, we're already doing that. We're already doing that with prize-winning bulls and dogs and cats. And the only reason we don't do it with humans when we have the technology already is because it's a moral problem. We don't know if we should. We have the technology to do it. We just don't do it. What are your thoughts?
And also
on
the routine, the types of clothing have very high error rates. When the error rates fall to be as low as ordinary birth.
I think you're talking about 20 years ago.
No, I'm pretty sure that cloning.
Still like that?
I think it is. But I would be happy.
The last time I looked into it was like 20 years ago, and they were having like some physicality and personality differences in the cloned animals. And when they first started it, they were like dying early and stuff. They weren't having a full lifespan expected for that animal, like Dolly the sheep. How long ago was Dolly the sheep?
Well, I will gladly be proven wrong on that point. Because I want a mammoth.
Be better at it by now because it's been a while.
I want to see a living mammoth and a thylacine in my lifetime, and we're running out of time.
We were Dolly pre-existed Jurassic Park, the first one, right? So it's older than that, and that's like how long ago? 20 years?
Do you remember when that news of that Dolly the sheep broke? And then she went Hollywood and started attending.
I'm telling you, some years.
Hollywood and the drug taking and the sex parties.
Those really footloose and fancy free. I guess if you got it, flaunt it.
Yeah.
But Dolly never was much for character. It's all about eyelashes. So I don't know what to say. I mean, if what you're interested in is eyelashes, Dolly's your girl. Whatever.
Elizabeth Taylor had a weird genetic quirk. People often said how beautiful her eyes were and her eyelashes. And her eyes were an unusual color. But she had like weird double eyelashes that were sort of like ingrown and caused her a lot of pain over the years.
Yeah, that's disgusting. And I feel bad for her. Peace and respect, St. Tommy. St. Tommy, you're not a saint yet. As far as I know, you're not going to be, actually. Love to have time.
Maybe he's a pre-saint. He's a proto-saint.
Okay, so there's there's only so many classifications. There's like major categories in heaven, and then there's some subcategories, and then you get to the lowest in heaven, which would be a newborn person who doesn't know crap, or has to know something, because it's there's a line in the Bible that reads, John, as great as John, meaning John the Baptist, as great as John is, he's lesser than the least in heaven. He doesn't even add up to a child. His understanding and wisdom is below a child's in heaven. So you've got the general classification of God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asserting that God is a set of ideals with which they rule their society, a constitution, if you will. Okay. Below that, you have archangels. Now, archangels are kings and priests over other angels. They are. They sit in judgment. They do. That's what archangels do. Read the description of an archangel. This is their job. That's promised to one being and one being alone in the story. The hero of the story, in the case of the Bible, Christ. That is, Christ becomes an archangel. This makes him a king and a priest over others, including angels. See how easy that was? So to say someone is a priest or a saint or an archangel means they were a Christ. So all these, it's a bad joke. It's a bad joke when these people, I'm Saint whomever. No, you're not. And you're not going to be. Ever. You could convert to Catholicism and do some really nice works on humanitarian work on earth. Maybe they'll dub you a saint, but you won't be a saint in heaven. That's just not going to happen. And it makes sense that the intended reader would be ruling over angels, judging angels, not the general populace, but the intended reader would be, that is, Jesus would be, because his people of his earth become angels. I wonder how he claims them. This is pretty easy. Peace and respect for all. I mean, all of that. Look at every reference throughout the Bible on that series of topics, and you'll find that idea, it justifies absolutely everything that's there. That's it. That covers it. But the average person who ascends to heaven is mostly going to be ignorant. They're going to be given grace because of their ignorance, which is just. It's perfect justice. It's not gift. It's not a gift. They deserve grace when you're ignorant. And God withholds information, thereby he knows you're ignorant. Okay, well, that's perfect justice. That's perfect benevolence. Is grace in the face of your ignorance. The problem is that we think we're not ignorant. That's the problem.
Yes, well, every civilization that's ever existed thought themselves very well civilized.
Oh, yes, of course.
I was wondering your take, Richard, on souls that were, well, I say souls, people who are among the least of us, serial killers or Nazi.
There's only one unforgivable sin. That is, the person won't accept heaven. That's it.
Right.
Because our ancestors have a pill called genetic perfection, which is just you being exactly you, and all of you coding, which means you would be perfectly self-healing. Sorry if you have a tattoo. Angels don't have tattoos for longer than it takes to heal from a tattoo being given to them, because it's going to grow out, because they're perfectly self-healing. I wouldn't be surprised if angels get tattoos all the time, but think of it as a very temporary thing. It's just fun.
Temporary
tattoos to grow out, and that's it.
Mac, are we talking over you, or you've been kind of quiet and Richard and I have been rambling?
No, it's great. I've been taking it all in. It's a very good conversation today. It's fine.
Well,
I would like to. Okay, thanks. I would like to loop back a little bit to what we were talking about previously before we started talking about saints and archangels and stuff. Although
yeah,
that's a fascinating topic as well. I wanted to weigh in on the whole cloning discussion and just point out. I'm sure that you've come across this objection before, but I just wanted to point out that that doesn't offer the same level of comfort that the more traditional idea of the afterlife offers, where there's a continuation. From what I understand about cloning, it wouldn't be. I wouldn't, like the I that I experience as I now wouldn't have any kind of continuity in a cloning scenario if I died and then
what wouldn't have continuity by the person experiencing it?
I don't think that it would be a continuity of person. I think that a new person.
Oh, it's not. It's an interrupted person. That's true.
I think it would be a different person. The clone would be a different person. And I think the demonstration would be that the clones can exist at the same time as their original donor material, and so those are two different beings, and they're not the same being. And so, I would still have to contend with death and oblivion or whatever that means, for who I am and who I experience as myself right now. I think
it sounds like a transporter problem from Star Trek.
Exactly. Yeah, it is the same problem. Yeah.
I have to say you raise a really good point, and it's weird. Okay. But I think in heaven there's going to be a lot of things that are weird. For instance, your grandma died and your sister is pregnant with your grandma.
Yeah, that's weird.
That sounds pretty weird, right? Just right off the bat. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Now you can see the logical plausibility of it, right? That's not a problem.
Sure.
But you start to look at like that compare that to our normal, and you go, dude, that's weird stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's weird. And what exactly it means, there is not a lot of detail in the text on these topics. There isn't. So I mean, to be perfectly honest, I am using necessary extrapolation, but I am extrapolating, okay, or eisegeting. I am, because you have to if you're going to talk about this stuff. It's just not directly said in the text.
And I know you also have asserted before that the text isn't meant to comfort me. Like that's a mistake right out of the gate. But
that's not what it's actually for. It's not to make your life good. It's not to direct our society here, and it's not to make you the hero unless you are the hero.
Right.
And if you are the hero, it will make you the hero. And it's not moral standards. It's not talking about money. It's not talking about sex. Those are non-topics. It's not talking about you feeling good.
Right.
I wanted to thank Plastic Jesus for him stating that he was a clone of Mo Howard, which was
from the Three Stooges.
Yes.
Oh.
Wise guy, huh? I was also thinking about I hope I'm not pronouncing this wrong, the Sacral King, where apparently in many cultures you had, as a sort of rebirth, the coming of spring.
Okay.
And you would appoint someone to be king who would be treated like a king for 1 year and then be killed, and his sacrifice would ensure the fertility of your world. And
this is magic thinking?
Yes, magical thinking for sure. But we still came up with it. Like, we human beings thought it was reasonable once upon a time.
Oh, well, just because we're gullible doesn't mean we invented an idea.
No. I think we did, but I certainly can't prove the opposite.
Thank you for your honesty. Yeah, a lot of people say, man wrote the Bible. I'm like, I'd love for you to show that. I mean, it's a pretty reasonable assumption, but I'd love for you to actually like back up your assertion. I mean, I have even before and today, and this is more important that I say this than probably most people would realize right now. I have horrible, demonic thoughts every day, every single day, and every day I have to denounce them, and every day I have to ignore them again, and every day I have to understand that that's not me and who I am. That doesn't stop them from happening. But
sure, selfish thoughts can go through a person's head. No
what's
question.
that? Selfish thoughts?
Oh yeah.
No, I don't mean selfish thoughts. Selfish thoughts are normal, average, understandable, justifiable. I mean horrible, 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 horrible. I'm not going to say it 20 times, which is what it deserves.
Yeah.
Terrible, immoral, anti-human thoughts about myself and others. The kind that a psychologist should put you on meds. And they often do put people on meds for this. Self-loathing, loathing of other human beings. But this goes right into put someone you're attracted to on your arm and go out with them to a nice dinner in public, and you will have horrible thoughts, and you should be wondering why you want to ruin the evening when you don't want to ruin the evening. You should be wondering that. It's like half your brain hates you. I'm sorry. I thought I was my brain. How can my brain hate me? Or maybe it's not me. Maybe there really is such thing as a familiar. And maybe there really is such thing as a guardian angel. And that's why I keep hearing, ignore that. And I'm thinking, I'm trying to ignore that. And it's like, you're a piece of shit. She doesn't really want you. She just wants you to take her out. She thinks you're going to be friends, you know. She's not interested in dating you or something. And I'm trying to go, oh my God. And if you think that it's only me, explain why it's in a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Why is it that Bugs has or Daffy Duck has an evil Daffy on one shoulder and an angelic Daffy on the other? It's because the writer experiences that. Because humans experience that.
It sounds like
humans who don't experience exactly that thing.
It reminds me, like, you're absolutely right, and it reminds me a bit of the sort of justification for a book that is incredibly interesting but unprovable, called The Evolution of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. And so that our present state of consciousness was not reflected in earlier times when people would hear gods all the time and would hear the voice of the king in their heads, that sort of thing.
Wait, is that suggesting that we weren't always both halves connected? Is that what that's suggesting?
Essentially, that they function differently. And
that may be true in proto-human. I'd like to see an example of that in what we would call Homo sapiens sapien.
Well,
I mean, without an injury or birth defect.
Well, for example, all the stela, which has, there are all sorts of them, always talk about how the god spoke, but no one sees the god. And this is often reflected in mental illness, where almost always the god is heard, but not seen.
You'll forgive me, I don't think those are the same things at all.
Maybe not.
I think the stories are prophetic, and that we are left alone to do as we will. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it indifferent, some of it benign, right? But we're left alone to do what we want. People get hints of ideas from the angelic and from the demonic, and sometimes they follow them. And if they follow it enough and they believe it enough, we put them in an insane asylum.
Yes.
And if a person accepts enough truths from the angelic and they see that they work and they apply it in their life, even if they think it's their ideas, well, frankly, their test scores should reflect how brilliant that person is. But they test poorly. But then they have amazing ideas that work in reality, like they're freaking Einstein. That doesn't make any sense, by the way. But you'll see people living their life that way, and they're happy because their life's working out because they've accepted enough truths. And a person can get addicted to one or the other, and often do.
Yeah. I just put in a link to that book. The author is Julian Jaynes, and it's The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. Richard, you might really enjoy the book if you want to get it.
I got to be honest, I'm not going to have time. I mean, I'm gonna think about it right now in this moment, logically, yes, and look at what I think would be things that would confirm it or deny it. Like, for instance, bicameral mind is talking about the physicality of the brain itself. It's not talking about the operations of the brain. So why are we talking about the breakdown of the bicameral mind? Or they're saying that we're de-evolving? First of all, it's a dumb subtitle, because that's not what they mean, and I can tell it's not what they mean. What they really mean is that we're disassociating from self. That's what they're really talking about here. And how that has, impacts on society and persons and et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure it's very detailed, but that looks like clickbait as a title to me.
Oh,
because that can't be what they meant. And wrote a book.
You know what? I perhaps I'm not doing the book of the book justice.
Is it a joke?
It's not a joke. The book, but maybe I'm not doing the book justice. It is but it's basically suggesting that consciousness is a construct, almost like a social construct that it developed, and our two hemispheres now work in a different way as to how they worked before.
Well, now I know I'm not going to read it because the author is unconscious.
Well,
I don't trust the writings of unconscious people.
Okay. Well,
that's why I dismissed Daniel Dennett. Daniel Dennett says, "I'm not conscious. I only think I am." I said, "Then shut up. You're not even a conscious being. Why should I listen to you? You make no sense."
That's hilarious. Well,
I'll dismiss it just based on that idea right there. I mean, that is illogical. If you are not a conscious being, how are you writing a book? I'd love to know the answer to that, because that requires some kind of consciousness definitionally. You have to be aware at a level, an immense level, to be able to do that kind of research, understand those kinds of abstract ideas, portray them in some kind of a story, even if it's a boring story. Wow, you're really conscious and denying it. I just think that's dumb.
Part of the book is that our modern ability to be introspective, something we often fail to do, but that we have the ability to do, to think about how we think, is, in a sense, relatively modern, so that 20,000 years ago, we may not have been doing this.
Okay, I'll grant that. I actually think it's 27,600 years, but okay, 20,000. Sure.
When I read the book, I thought it was fascinating, but how on earth would you prove it? And if you met a person, his notions about the mind,
the ancients not having it, or that our perception of consciousness is a construct of our minds, it doesn't exist at all. Which one?
Oh, you're a bit ahead of me there. Just the notion of the two halves of the mind working alongside each other rather than as a connected whole. That would be the For example, you might be the reason why you're hearing voices would be because your two halves are at odds, which I think.
Great, but I want to know why the half that I'm not aware of, which is at odds with the half I am aware of, can give me new information falsifiable in reality outside of my experience. I love to know how my brain does that.
Yes, well,
that's like literally impossible.
At any rate, I seem to have dragged
this. Right now, Jupiter's going to catch on fire, and there's no way I could know that. There is literally no way I could know that, but it's going to, and you're going to see it happen unless you're dying of some zebra-specific disease I'm unaware of.
Well, there are lions about, and even worse, crocodiles. I hate those things.
Wait, where do you live? I thought you were in the Americas.
Yes, but I still have nightmares about them.
Wild.
And there are African lion safaris, and sometimes they get loose.
Well, yes, but you're not near them.
Doesn't matter. Just that I know they exist is enough.
If you were near a magician or a zoo, you'd be justified, okay? But if you're avoiding zoos, and I'm thinking you do, for obvious freaking reasons, you avoid zoo, and you're not next door neighbors with someone with a license for a rare cat as a pet, are you? I mean, move, for God's sakes. If you're next door to a lion and it's giving you nightmares, leave.
Well, let's say you lived near a place. What is it called now? The hills have eyes, and you were
West
worried.
Virginia, the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, and you were worried that there were rumors of people who were kidnapped and cannibalized or enslaved in some weird sex cult. But you didn't move because you didn't believe the rumors.
Well, then I wouldn't be having nightmares about it.
Maybe.
I know I'm not a zebra, but I'm going off what you said.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I just, when you know that there's an animal out there evolved to eat you, it's always it's somewhere on the back of your mind.
On Satan's planet, there might be such a thing for humans. Might be a natural prey. Yeah, where we come from, Satan's planet. There might be a natural prey. Of course, why would we take those? And the things that were big enough to eat us and kill us, that were part of the assembly of this planet, the angels came and killed off with great accuracy. They missed very few of them. Only small pockets of dinosaurs and general dinosaurs, theropods and raptors and freaking crazy stuff that'll eat a person. They only survived in very, very small pockets, and they eventually got killed off. They all died off too, and they were not.
And now we eat them instead. Chickens.
What's that?
Now we eat them instead of the other way around.
That's turnabout's fair play in my view. Why don't you become an omnivore and start consuming lions?
Well, you need the right teeth for it. These molars are made for not chewing.
You're saying that omnivores don't grind meat? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because they do.
Not from left to right.
Yes,
they chomp on meat.
No, not until when it gets back to the molars, they have relatively flat. You could just mill the meat faster.
Well, I'm amazed you're actually telling me how to eat.
I don't need fangs. I have a knife. You've heard of? Is there an adaptation, a knife that you can use with hooves? I mean,
yes, I'm very capable. I can use this keyboard, for example.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. So, I mean, you're dexterous because you're intelligence, obviously not because of the hooves, but I mean, you don't need sharp teeth to start eating meat. I mean, that's only true in unintelligent animals.
Maybe I could try eating pulled pork. That's awfully stringy.
I don't know. For karma, I would stick with predators. I don't think I would go after a prey animal, just because you are a prey animal.
Well, pigs are prey animals. They eat insects.
That's what I'm saying. You shouldn't eat your own, basic. It's disrespectful. It's not cannibalism because you're not a pig, but it's still disrespectful in my view.
It is?
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know.
One
it's like
herbivore eating another is wrong.
Yeah, vegetarians eating vegetarians. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, you make an interesting point, but you're saying it's okay if I eat a predator, though.
But you can call it retaliation. It's easy to justify.
Right.
They eat you, eat them back.
Mm.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. We got to stop that.
Yes, okay.
Too silly for me. I'm enjoying it.
I guess I missed
silly,
the
but it's
most
just too silly.
profound part.
Yeah.
Best part of the show was the part where they were pretending he's actually a zebra.
Who says I'm pretending?
The show, you'll forgive me.
I'm not pretending nothing. I'm a Canadian mountain zebra.
Very rare.
We all know that.
Yes.
You don't have to brag about, your exclusivity within your ethnic group and that you're actually, black with white stripes, not white with black. Yes, we've heard it. We've heard it.
There was an interesting thing where I believed the instruction that we're black with white stripes, but I saw pictures of zebras who had actually been shaved, and the skin shows the stripe.
Matches the hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, it's not that weird biologically. A lot of things work that way. Look at wine stains on humans.
Oh, port wine stains? Yeah.
Yeah, no, not port wine, just wine stain. It's not an actual stain from wine. It's just called a wine. I know zebras don't have these. Let me tell you what a wine stain is.
Yes,
it's a discoloration of the skin on a human being. Any kind of human being can have this. Okay, and the hairs that grow out of that affected area will reflect the discoloration as well. So it happens in humans; they're just blotchy with it. They don't have nice neat stripes with it.
The Mayo Clinic has a section on port wine stains, so I think I'm right.
It's actually called a port wine stain. So
yes,
we've
because of
abbreviated
the
it, and
color.
I learned the abbreviation.
Maybe. I just pulled a quote from the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah. Peace and respect to Ace Theo. If I hadn't said that, I just noticed you're in the chat.
Oh, hi.
Okay, so let's get back to the show, if you guys are okay with that.
Sure.
They're discussing Matthew 13 in the chat. I don't know if that's related to what we were talking about.
Let's do it.
Matthew 13.
Let me before you even look it up and read it to me, because alphanumerics make no sense to me, and I have no idea what that is. I know it's Matthew, because that's a word that makes sense. Matthew. I know where that is in the Bible, and I have read all of Matthew. But before you even read it, let me say, y'all are going to be wrong about it. Okay, let's go on.
I don't know what claims were made. They were just talking about it.
Doesn't matter. They're going to be wrong.
All right. I'll go right into the King James here. 13:1. It's a parable. It's the parables. 13:1 is the same day Jesus out of the house and sat by the seaside, and great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came up and devoured them up. Some fell in stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground, and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised, Mac, because I read this and there's a continuous mindset for this for me. Mm-hmm. And then people will say things that I'm like, wait a minute, how the hell did you come up with that crap?
Mm.
They'll just say like, and they'll have arguments about it. I'm just like, y'all realize that you're arguing about something that's like almost not there, right? So what is the argument that people are having in the chat about Matthew 13?
Let's see.
The one bit I believe of that is the part where Jesus spoke in a boat, because sound carries so well over all water.
Oh, neat.
It was a little bit of a bay. Then it would almost be like an amphitheater.
That's a correlation fallacy, and it may be true in reality. That's fine. It can be true in reality that still flat, quiet waters reflect sound and like an amphitheater, center it. So you get more sound from the same direction.
Yes.
So I can see the idea of that. Do you know how flat that water would have to be for that to actually work? I mean, you can't have
it does work. Have you ever been to a lake? It works.
Yeah, a pretty big lake. You can hear people on the other shore talking.
Yes.
At least at night and stuff when it's
I'm
quiet.
not a lake person, so I don't know that. But I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it's a correlation. Like you're saying that's the reason that he was in a separate vessel, separated from the people. Whereas it's actually a spiritual statement. Peace and respect, Randolph. It's a spiritual statement saying he's weird.
Oh, and apart from the others.
He's literally apart from the others. Everybody's outside of him. Like you'll notice in this, like there's not a dude in the boat with him, because there can't be. And the one time that someone does like try to do the Jesus thing and like steps out of the Jesus boat, bloosh, right in the drink. He gets like a couple steps.
Right.
He can't do it. Nobody can do it but that dude. That's why he walks on the waters. So yeah, he's in a separate vessel, and yeah, he's on the over top of the waters on the water. I'll bet you if you look in the definitions, it doesn't say that the boat was in the water. I'll bet you it doesn't. In fact, I'll put 50 push-ups on it right now.
All right.
50?
And it doesn't say the boat's in the water. It says it's on the water.
It was one of those land boats.
Well, it's on the water as in over top of. If you look into it, I'll bet it can be read in the Greek. That's more like over top of or above, not sunken into or floating on. And they had words for that stuff, by the way.
It actually doesn't mention the water at all. It just says that there was a whole bunch of people around him, so he went into a ship.
Well, they were around him on the shore.
Yeah, everybody stood on the shore, it says, but yeah, so it implies.
Of course, they're
water.
on the shore.
It doesn't mention water specifically. And the shore is pretty straight shore.
You know, if I change that just ever so slightly to a larger view and say the location is heaven, that's where he's talking from, then of course they're on the outside and they're on the shore and he is not. That's because he's the first one to step into his own heaven. But that's why I would be missing like some commonly used phrases and words and ideas like, and he launched a boat. Well, you'll never find it where he launches a boat. He doesn't. Because he's not in control of his own birth when it says vessel and it gets translated to boat. And he's not in charge of heaven either. And that's the other kind of a carrying device, if you will, an ark, a container. That's the other kind of container. You got mom and you got heaven. And that's all that's in the story. So you'll never find Jesus or an apostle or anybody launching a boat. They can't. It'll say things like they were in a boat. Well, yeah. Okay, cool. You're not going to find one place where they launch one. It's impossible. Okay, I'm out of coffee. Oh, and perfect
Get
timing.
some more coffee.
Look at that.
Right there, 59, 52.
I'd like to keep these half hour or hour as I want them to be as Chewbacca's wife cut up meat, bite-sized chunks.
I agree.
Do you guys remember that? She's listening to an educational video or watching an educational video, and the guy, it's a cooking lesson, and she's apparently not a very good cook. He's like, divide the meat into bite-sized pieces, like chunk, like they're like two inches by or like, what is that, 5.5 centimeters by 5.5 centimeters, like huge.
Is that from the Christmas special?
You know, for herself, that's a what's that?
Is that from the Christmas special?
Yes, it is.
I thought so. I do remember that.
I've never actually seen it.
Oh, it's
I know it's on YouTube somewhere. I don't know if I want to, but you make
it's pretty
me
darned entertaining. I mean, it's okay. It's not worth 3 views, but it's worth 1. I wouldn't watch it 3 times, but I can't forget it. You know that I did see it.
I think you're trying to tell us you did watch it 3 times. That's how you know it's not worth watching 3 times.
Well, you know that's a very Christian argument of you for you there.
Thank you.
That's the sort of thing Christians say, like, assuming they understand the minds of others and things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to say that Raw in the comments, Raw 5069 is still struggling with that passage in Matthew. And
what's the struggle, bro?
He hasn't really. He just said he's got questions about it, but he, you know, Ace is reaching out to him, and Krishna is trying to link them together. But I just wanted to throw it out there that, you know, there's lots of people that can help you look at that verse, man. and
well, there's lots of people that can help you look at the verse. But if you don't mind me being a little bit proud of what I think the Father did to me against my will,
speak it.
You can keep going back and forth on these things for, I don't know, decades. People do. But we should accept what is simplest with the least amount of assumptions, that doesn't cherry pick or commit any other logical fallacy, that's consistent within the Bible, you know, a coherency theory. We should accept that on a piece of literature. Because if you don't have a coherent view of the literature, it literally can mean anything.
So, Raw, do you get what Richard was saying it meant? Because I don't know if he was explicit about it. We take a lot for granted because we're on like our 52nd show, 39th show.
39th show, that's right.
Yeah, I could still do some Roman numerals.
Right.
But what Richard was saying is that the boat is the ship, is the spaceship, if you want to get colloquial about it, where Jesus will make claims in the end times about his divinity and about our purpose and about what's next for us and what's available for us. And so he's saying that not only this verse, but a lot of verses in the Bible are about exactly that event, about that communication and about what's about to happen. So,
right. Just like the angels in heaven, which a thing you already know, even in just an internal critique, and if you don't believe it, angels are inside of heaven. That is, the waters are within and throughout the firmament, which is what Genesis reads. And then it says the other waters are on, as in on top of, or on the outside, or coating the earth, which is true of us. So it's saying that we're essentially the same as them, except we're in this lower outside position, and they're in this privileged inside position, which is how the waters are separated from the waters. And this is very much like that. It's the same idea that compared to the angelic, the godly in heaven, anyone, and by the time Jesus and the 144 learn a new song, have the right hand strengthened, That's at their initial ascension before he's killed. So of course they are nations or goy or outside or on the shore or not part of the deal. They're the ignorant or unaccepting. That's who they are. And I think if you look at it that way, it just it justifies all the apparent problems. Or maybe that was a whole bunch of word salad. I don't know. My family has complicated sentence structures, and we like dangling participles. So a lot of people go, "Oh, you don't make any sense. You're just talking crap." No, I'm not. This is just how the people that I grew up with talk. Like, they always understand me perfectly.
It sounded clear to me.
Beck totally gets what I'm saying about the ancient religions, just doesn't believe it's true because needs evidence, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did we have a show, and did we cover anything you guys wanted to, or was this just a series of tangents? Because it seems like there was a bunch of tangents.
I think it was both.
I think that's okay.
I had a great time tonight. It's always good to see you two, and the tangents were all juicy and interesting. So I think we didn't drill deep tonight, but I think we got into some interesting topics. So that's okay. We can build on that for when it's all, XXX. X? What's it going to be next?
Yeah, I maybe sometime.
Actually, it's 1x away from 50.
Okay.
So there you go.
Oh, then there's a new
you have subtraction first, so you have the x and then 50 for 40. That's what you do.
Nice.
I can't remember if it's L or C. I'm going to have to look it up.
I think it's L. I think
it is L because C is 100.
Right.
Right.
So. Yeah.
So it's an L, yeah. Of course, Super Bowl fans know this stuff. I'm not really a Super Bowl fan.
Still relevant.
The football fans already know this. I'm still I barely used it at all in my life. All right, guys, that's it. Final thoughts, wrap it up. What are we doing, guys?
Good night. Good night, everybody in the chat. Thanks. It was a good crowd tonight. Really popped.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Right on. Peace and respect to all of you. Thank you so much. I said it off air, but I'll say it on air because I'm not ashamed of the fact that I owe deeply all of you in the chat and Steve and Mac a debt I can literally never repay. I can't tell you. If I did, you wouldn't believe me. You actually would not believe me if I told you how much I feel that I owe each and every one of you. Thank you all very, very much. And until the next time, I want you to know that I truly do look forward to the day that we're all great friends.
I like that XXXIX. That's wonderful. I'm going to say goodnight.
Moon Medi, peace and respect, Moon Medi. You like the what? XXXIX?
The outro.
Oh, is that like French for exit?
Basically, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that one. Thank you.
It's a dramatic term from plays,
Oh, okay. Were you ever an actor?
No, but I just made use of my BA in English.
Good. Continue. You're educating me, and I appreciate that.
Oh,
all right. I'm going to end the show, though. Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, sir. Good night, everyone.
Goodbye.